first of all, can you see my first slide? Just gives a, yeah, I can see some nods, perfect. All right, so really positioning is about how we are seen by our potential clients and of course our existing clients as well. And what do people look out for really? Well, there are a number of things that they're going to be looking for on a subconscious level. And this is the part that's important because we don't always appreciate what people are looking for on a subconscious level. We just think about that conscious element and we feel that the information, the communication that we're putting out there is right. So I've got a few slides that will just explain that. And then, as I say, we're going to do a couple of exercises together in this session. So first of all, yeah, positioning forms the second stage in the roadmap. And to a large extent, you know, it's one of the most important areas because if you don't get your positioning right, then it can be very difficult to promote and advertise some of the added value services like, you know, the business consulting, the business advisory type stuff. Because if everybody thinks, well, you're just the same type of accountant as my last accountant was, for example, maybe you're cheaper, maybe you're, you know, I don't know, maybe you specialize in a certain area. But beyond that, if they don't see that you are different, it doesn't matter what words you use, if that's not conveyed in the right way, then they're just going to assume that you're very similar. And this is where people will challenge you on fees, maybe not appreciate you and give you the respect that maybe you should have as well. So when we go through positioning, and bear in mind, we're only touching on one small element of the whole of the workshop today. But getting positioning right means that you are positioned as an expert in business, and you really do need to be positioned as that kind of caliber of person for people to give you the respect and appreciation that you need. And if you think about, you know, just some recent examples, if you've seen Arnon in last Thursday's session, he does a lot of that. You know, he's really conveying you know, the types of people he works with, the type of income he generates, the type of audience he has. And yes, you might see that as maybe bragging, but he's also on a subconscious level assuring different parts of our brain of his credibility, because that's important. Okay, so establishing you as an expert, establishing your vision, your values and your purpose, because that's going to attract the right people and detract the wrong type of people. And I mean that from a team point of view, and I mean that from a customer, a client point of view as well. You know, we want to be differentiated beyond the price. Just put a yes in the chat box if you're already an author of your own book, whether that's an AVN book, whether that's a book that you've written yourself. And I know some are, because I can see some very familiar faces here. My chat box isn't in front of me at the moment. It's disappeared. Let me just try and find it. Okay, so not a single thing in the chat box. So, okay, type in the chat box if you can even hear me. Okay, cool. Right, so yeah, so yes, you are, Phil. I knew that one because I can see you on my screen. So no, not yet. Okay. So remember a couple of things, by the way. You've got access to a real shortcut to being an author via the AVN book. And if you want, I'll talk about that a little bit more if you're not familiar with it. But ultimately, by you making a few small contributions, you get to co-author and therefore be an author of your own book, which just has the biggest thud factor. It's the most powerful business card you could give somebody. It really sets you apart from the competition. So what you need to do to be able to do that is, first of all, you need to become an accredited AVN member. So, you know, some of the newer people on here, maybe you're still working towards that. But if you've not done that yet, then I highly recommend it. As I say, there's lots of massive benefits to that. And even if you're planning on writing your own book, why not use this shortcut? Because it's so powerful. Obviously, accreditations and awards will help you position yourself, featuring in the UK's Best Accountancy Businesses book, which I don't have. Oh, I do. Yeah. So this is, well, this is the 2017 edition. We have a new edition all of the time. So just featuring in that alone, having that, you know, we've got lots of members that have got this on their maybe reception desk with a bookmark in it where they feature. And being featured in that, again, it's just another credibility factor. You have to meet some criteria to be able to feature in it, of course, but it's important. Okay, so hopefully you get the gist. Now, not all of you will have maybe got the positioning workbook yet. So if you have got it, then the stuff I'm touching on starts from page 26. We're not going to do a page by page, but it starts from 26 here. If you haven't got it, it doesn't matter too much right now, as long as you've got something to make these notes on. Now, again, just to refresh your memory, why is it important to position yourself? Most accountants out there will position themselves in a very similar way to the next accountant. There are a number of reasons for this. One is that actually they they'll outsource their website development to a website developer who just looks online and thinks, right, accountant template, let's pull that in. And it automatically says, we're accountants, we're business advisors, we do payroll, we do compliance, we'll do whatever it might be, bookkeeping. And then they'll just find out what flashy images you want and those types of things. So the reality is that you're left with your communication. I'm not just talking about websites here. That's really important. This is about your communication is very similar to your rivals, your competitors. And when that's the case, the only differentiator is ever going to be price, isn't it? Well, if you all do accounts, you all do bookkeeping, you all do payroll, who's going to do that for the cheapest price? That's all you're going to get. Whereas if you can differentiate yourself sufficiently, then value is the deciding factor over and above the price. And, you know, if the value is really high, the price can be significantly higher as well. And value doesn't have to be hard effort value. You know, you've got access to a whole wealth of shortcuts and tools here within AVN that enables you to deliver high value for low effort, but enables you also to put the price up as well. Now, again, we're not going to be touching on all aspects of adding value in this session, because really you need your clients to be receptive to receiving, for understanding the type of value and appreciating that you can deliver it. So we need to go right down to the fundamental level here. But ultimately, if your value proposition is in line with your customers, your potential customers' needs and requirements and their values and their passion, then they're going to move to you over and above the competition. And bear in mind, those competitors are all advertising themselves in a very similar way. Lots of people say to me, you know, I just can't get good clients. It's just a rubbish area. It's whatever it is. You know, I can't seem to get good clients. Now, we are all fishing in the same ocean at the end of the day. And in that ocean, there are big fish, there are small fish. There are bottom feeders. We've all got some of those, haven't we? There are sharks, you know, there are all sorts of different types of fish. And exactly the same applies to, you know, the clients that you're looking for. What kind of bait are you attracting them with? Because if you want to catch in the ocean, you want to catch the big fish, you have to use a very different bait, sometimes different tackle, compared to catching the small fish. So if you're ending up with these types of fish, clearly the bait is wrong. It's not you, it's just a type of bait that you're attracting those types of clients your way with, isn't it? Do you agree with that? I can see a few faces, but yeah, a yes or a no in the chat box as well. I really want this chat box to be active, because a little bit later on we've got a lot more interaction going on. Okay, so we agree with that. Brill. Okay. Spot on. So, would you rather have that kind of fish or that kind of fish? Well, that's entirely up to you, isn't it? The type of bait that you're using. Now, what a lot of people do is they think, oh, do you know, I'm going to outsource somebody to help me build my brand. And if we think of brand, if I show this image on there, you know, just type in the chat box, what does that image represent for you? Who is it for a start? Okay, so yeah, absolutely, it's Disney. Now, what does that mean? If you think about Disney, does it trigger an experience, a memory, an emotion? Just type in anything that comes to your mind. Fun, family, wholesome, yeah, fun. Okay, what else in there? Yeah, more fun. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, if you think about Disney, it's not just the films, it's the theme park. It's the, you know, you go to the Disney shop, you know, my nearest one is at Meadowhall, and it's just a great experience, isn't it? So, yeah, a great business model as well. Love ever after, absolutely. So, and kids' movies and poor Star Wars movies. Yeah, some of them are dire, aren't they? But anyway. But ultimately, you would probably never bat an eyelid at the thought of sitting your kids down to watch a Disney film. You wouldn't feel that you have to watch it first to make sure it's okay, it's child safe, there's no swearing in it, those types of things. Because actually, everything pretty much that Disney produce, you know the quality is going to be fantastic. And so really with Disney, it's more than just, my slides aren't progressing, it's more than just one thing, isn't it? What they've really focused on is making sure that everything they do, whether it's the shop, whether it's the theme park, whether it's the movies, they're all in line with their values. They're all in line with their vision. You know, the quality is consistent throughout. You know, they know who their target market is, and they only create stuff for that target market. They don't care if other people don't like it, fine, you know, suit yourself. They have a target market in place. They have their beliefs, they have their purpose, they have their mission. Now, the brand is the consequence of all of those things. Lots of people try to start with a logo and try and say what that means to everybody. You know, a brand isn't just a logo, it's what you stand for. And so a couple of things on that we're going to focus on in this session right now, okay? Now, I mentioned earlier that, you know, accountants' websites are very similar. And I'm sure you've seen me do this several times. You know, I use these slides regularly because it's surprising still how many accountants' websites are very similar. And I know some of you out there have really, you know, that I can see on the list here, have really started to change your websites. That's fantastic. But ultimately, you know, on the most basic level, when I research accountants' websites, and I encourage you to do the same, they all have these similar buzzwords. You know, it'll have the name of the company, but then they'll say we're accountants and business advisors, we're different, we're proactive, we're forward thinking. And then they all go on to say, you know, we do compliance, we do payroll, we do bookkeeping, we do whatever it might be. And it doesn't matter how different you really are. It doesn't matter how forward thinking you really are. There's a massive difference between saying it and demonstrating it, isn't there? So, yeah, and the reason I show these different colors and graphics actually is because I used to just have that one slide. And in a room once when I was demonstrating this, one person raised their hand and said, no, you've not checked out my website. Because normally before this, I'll check out all the delegates' websites just to have a look. And he said, you've not looked at mine. I used a nightclub website designer to create mine because I really wanted to be different. So I felt a little bit guilty about that. I thought I must have missed one then. And at the break we got together, I took a look, and effectively it said exactly the same as that slide. I mean, almost word for word. But what he'd done, he'd used flashy images in the background. And they were spinning round little animated GIFs and things like that. But the irony is he got a calculator spinning round and stuff like that. So it might have looked snazzy, but it wasn't really different. So, you know, it doesn't matter about the images so much. It's about what you're saying, what you're expressing on that website. Now, our brains, you know, we think our brains work in a certain way, but actually they're very much divided owing to the way that we've evolved, owing to the way that we developed from birth. You know, the most primal part of the brain is that part of the brain labeled number one, and that includes the brain stem. That deals with reflexes, reactions. It's very primal, and it deals with that sense of, you know, is it safe? It's that just instinctive kind of behavior that we have. You know, you walk into a room, you feel something's not right, you're not sure why, but, you know, your spidey senses sort of tingling, if you know what I mean. And that really comes from that part. The next part then is called the mammalian brain. And that really has, you know, it's all of the emotions. It seeks out pleasure. It wants to avoid pain, as you can see on the slide. And then the final part to really develop, and this really comes into its own as we go through our teenage years, that part really starts to develop. And that's the logic, the rationale, you know, the thinking side of it. Now, let me just explain something to you. When we're being creative, when we're thinking about stuff, all parts of the brain are really being used here. But quite often when we think about transmitting information out, that latest part of the brain, that rational part, tends to strip out some of the other elements, feeling that it's not necessary because, you know, you almost think, I need to come across as professional here. So I just need to tell them what they need to know here, the logical stuff, yeah? And almost keep the emotion out of it. Now, let's just take a look at how the brain communicates then. So again, just a few slides just to convey this really. So when we create our information and the last part of the brain's really taken that, it's filtered out the rest of it, whether it's our verbal communication, whether it's our written communication, emails, letters, brochures, all of those things, whether it's the videos that we're creating or whether it's just the basic website. If we're just taking that last part, that rational, that logic thinking and applying it there, then what we're assuming is that actually that is just going to go straight to the equivalent part of the recipient's brain, the logic. And it's going to resonate with them and they're going to think, oh yeah, this is just for me. But the reality is very different, because what actually happens is that that communication still goes through that order that they're numbered in. So in other words, it goes straight to, why has that not progressed? It goes straight to that reptile part first. And it needs to accept whether this is, it's got the credibility. Is this going to be safe? Am I going to be safe working with this particular person here? And, if it doesn't tick that box for it, it immediately taints that information. And as much as that same information then will work its way through to the mammalian, it's still tainted, and then it's still tainted when it gets to the logic. So there's an instinctive feeling that this isn't right for me. It doesn't matter how many boxes you're ticking, there's an instinctive feeling that this isn't right. Now, what if, most accountants actually get the credibility side of it right? Where a qualified, chartered, certified, whatever the accreditation might be, maybe they've got some of that right. I think there's room for improvement, but they've got some of that right. So let's say that part's right. Maybe then it filters its way through, all nice and green, perfect. I'm happy with it so far. What about you, mammal part? And if it's not inspired in some way, if it's not seeing that there's a purpose or it's resonating on an emotional level with the brain, then it can taint that information as well. And again, if it taints the information, then it's just going to be transferred to the logic part with something, a gut feel, that's just not right. It's not working for me. Okay. And so what we can do is lose a lot of the people that we might actually enjoy working with. And what we're perhaps left with is just the ones that are just price conscious. I just need this doing, that's all I care about. Okay. So what I'd like you to consider is for each one of those. So let's start with number one, the reptile part of the brain. What do you think, and let's take a website as an example. What do you think it might be interested in that's going to tick its boxes and give it that sense of safety, that sense of assurance? So again, type in the chat box. I'd just like to see what your thoughts are so far. And I've already mentioned a couple of things, so you can at least start with getting those in. Yep, so qualifications, business survival, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I agree with that. What else? Yeah, so trust, honesty, yeah, those types of things, absolutely important. Longevity, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, keep them coming in. Proof, yeah, absolutely, proof. You can sort their problems is sort of the proof element as well, of course, isn't it? Experience, yeah. So those types of things, really important. Knowledge, absolutely. Okay, and I would agree with that. And some of the things, yeah, reassurance and trust, absolutely. So some of the things I've put on here are things like having an award. An award is really important because it's demonstrating that an external body has acknowledged the things that you're doing as well. So actually that can have a massive impact. Oh, these have won an award. Somebody else has recognized the great things that they're doing, and therefore they've won this particular award, accreditation, whatever it might be. Awards being quite topical at the moment, by the way. We have our award. Remember to enter for it. That's an aside. Okay. So yeah, your qualification. Now most accountants will put their qualifications on there. They'll say we're a chartered accountant, we're ACCA, we're ICAW, whatever it might be. They'll put those things on there. But in many cases, they miss out the other. One of the things that Stephen's put there is reassurance. I'm sure others have, but they've maybe gone off screen. Having guarantees in place offers that reassurance, doesn't it? the case studies, the testimonials, all of those things mount up. What about the next one then? What about the number 2? So the mammalian part of the brain, which is really your emotion side. What are the things that you feel that should be in there? Okay, so I've got approachable. Understanding clients' problems, empathy. Shared values, yeah, absolutely. Caring. Outgoing personality, you put there, Jay, yeah. Personal, trustworthy, aspiration, absolutely, yeah. So yeah, your testimonials and case studies can perhaps tick both of those boxes, because really your case studies and testimonials need to come with the emotion. You know, what did it feel like? If somebody says, you know, if you've got a testimonial saying, oh yes, my accountant helped me save £100,000 in tax, full stop, then yeah, there's some kind of credibility in that you can do that. But what did it feel like? What did that enable them to do? What if they said this actually enabled me to save my house? You know, it was going to be repossessed. The impact this might have had on my family is X. So, you know, that's where the emotion comes in. So let me just pull up the list that I've got on here. So yeah, what's your mission? What's your aspirations? What's your values, your beliefs? Who you help? Yeah, who you love to help, the type of client that you want to work with. And even on the type of client, you know, we've hopefully in clarity, we've touched on your target client. You've got the psychograph, the kind of personality that you want to work with, which is just as important as the demographic and the, you know, the geographic elements. The psychograph is incredibly important, because this is a human to human time now, no longer B2B and B2C. It's about H to H. And therefore you've got to resonate with them. You've got to connect with them. Yeah, empathy, making their life as easy as possible is going to be very attractive to that monkey part of the brain. NVBL, by the way, stands for non-verbal body language. So when you're speaking, your facial expressions are what are picked up on, and your whole gestures and, you know, all of that stuff is what's picked up on by that mammalian part of the brain, because that's, you know, obviously a lot older than the logic part that develops speech. And so it can pick up on the emotion through your body language. And even visual attraction. So, you know, not just about people, but actually how attractive is your website. So sometimes, yes, it needs to look good, but ultimately it needs to tick those boxes off as well. And so finally then, what about the logic part? What about that number 3? What do you think we need to be considering in that area to ensure that we're ticking that part of the box? So either you're finger typing or, okay, so they're coming in, right, okay. One finger typing is what I meant to say, because we all type with our fingers generally. The usual stuff, yeah, well, I agree, yeah, to some extent, the usual stuff. Clarity, solutions to problems, yeah, I agree with that. And so, yeah, just I'm just going to let a couple more come in, because I know many of you sat back waiting to see what else everybody else says. Successful case studies. And again, yeah, absolutely, your case studies can approach all of these. So really what we want is the outcomes. Because actually people don't care so much that you do compliance and payroll and those types of things. They want to know what's the outcome for them? What will it mean for them? So yeah, you need to say we can do these things, of course, but ultimately, and this is why I talk about creating a package, because people don't care about the pieces in the jigsaw so much, compliance, accounts, payroll, bookkeeping. What they're interested in is a solution, which is why you create your packaged service with all of those things bundled in as part of it, because it makes the decision easier for a start, okay? Now, Obviously, I've got outcomes in there, the results that you get. So, of course, as come up in a few times, you know, your case studies, your testimonials can combine all three of those very easily. Because a case study is effectively a story. Now, Aristotle, 2,500 years ago, he said that basically when we communicate, we should be communicating on three levels. Now, obviously, these are Greek terms, ethos, logos, and pathos. But guess what? You know, they actually translate to exactly the same three areas. So as much as that previous slide with the brain analogy broke it down and it seemed very recent, you know, Aristotle discovered this method of communicating 2,500 years ago, and we should convey. And actually, if you watch any TED video, any good TED video, then actually they've got all of these three elements built into them. And you pretty much have to start with the credibility side of it as a starting point. And then, you know, you've got to progress through the others as well. Okay, so if you do have your positioning workbook, I'd like you to turn to page 31. Now, if you don't worry about it. As I say, this is really about discovering your why. Now, I'm just going to change the settings on my screen share so I can play a video. I want to play just a short video clip here. I just want to make sure that that's optimized for sound as well. Yeah, it is. Now, I tend to play this video in the workshop, having talked about the why. It has to start with our why, because it doesn't matter what you do, it's why you do it that really matters. And you will change the way that you do stuff when you are driven by a why. And that is really conveyed incredibly well in this short video. So it's about nearly 4 minutes long. So make sure, well, obviously you've got your sound on because you're listening to me. So I'm just going to play that now.
How do I know? A lot of people, when they think of the phrase, how do I know, they always want to put the what behind it. How do I know what I'm supposed to do? The question that you really should ask is, how do I know why I'm here? Because when you know your why, your what becomes more clear and more impactful. If you know, like for instance, people know that I do comedy, but that's what I do. My why is to inspire people to walk in purpose. So I can do comedy, I can write books, I can be in a movie, because all of it is motivated by my why. In fact, I have a new web series out called Michael Jr. Break Time. We probably just did the 6th episode. It's on YouTube. So every single Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we drop a new episode on YouTube of Michael Jr. Break Time. What it is it's me. I travel around the country and I do stand-up comedy, in case you didn't know. And in the middle of my comedy set sometime, I'll stop and just talk to my audience. And we've been filming this, and it's, you know, it's pretty cool. So we're in Winston-Salem. I'm gonna show you a clip from Winston-Salem. And I'm just talking to this guy in the audience, and he tells me that he's a musical instructor at a school. So I was like, all right, you're a musical instructor, you know, can you sing? Let me hear you sing a song. So this is what happened at the last episode of Michael Jr.'s Break Time. Check it. So you're a musical director? Cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow. That bro could sing, you know what I'm saying? All right. Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I'm fine, was blind, but now I see.
Okay, here's what I want you to catch. The first time I asked him to sing, he knew what he was doing. The second time, he knew why he was doing it. When you know your why, your what becomes more impactful because you're walking towards or in your purpose.
So I thought it was a great video and just really conveyed the point to really discovering your why. And, at Masterclass, I share my story of how I discovered my why and how it motivated me to perform in an Ironman. Now, obviously, I don't have time to share that story with you in this particular session, but the outcome from that was that my why, my purpose, was enabling people's ability to make better lifestyle choices. And on the most fundamental level, I think of that is the brain's ability to make choice. If the brain is damaged in any way, it can inhibit its ability to make choice in the first place, can't it? So that's one level. Another level, of course, is there are people around the world that don't have the luxury of making some of the choices that we take for granted, certainly in the Western world. And then close to home, there are people in business, accountants no exception, that feel that they have no choice but to keep working an endless amount of hours for insufficient income, just to keep the clients happy, just to pay the bills, etc. And so those three areas drive me, but in different ways. I raise sponsorships for a charity that really helps people recover from brain injury. So I'll do marathons, I'll do Ironmans and various other events related to that. For helping people around the world, we've aligned ourselves with the United Nations global goals, and every single week we are giving as a business through B1G1 to different causes around the world based on stuff that happens within AVN. And that's every single week we're celebrating that. And then, in terms of AVN as well, of course, helping accountants and helping the business owners, that's what we do. We've developed our 7-stage roadmap that is helping people have much better choices about how they run their practice and how they live their lives outside of running the practice. And we're creating the network, of course, as well. So all of these different things filter out from my personal purpose. So what's yours? Now, I want you just to have a few minutes with me. At the risk of sounding skeptical and negative here, this is not something that we're necessarily going to nail in one go. But what I'd like to do is just get you started and get your brain thinking about it and almost get your antennae up looking for the type of things that's going to help you. But what I'd like to do, and again, let's keep the interactivity going. I just want to spend a couple of minutes with you just seeing what you can come up with. Now, the first one's really easy. This is a 5-step process. Really easy. The first one is who are you? And just write your name on the top of a sheet of paper. So that's dead easy. Now, I want you to, for the next one, I want you to think of as many things as possible that might drive you to anger, to hate, to upset, to joy. Because these are the types of emotions that really drive us, aren't they? So, it can be something that gives you lots of pleasure. Now, wherever you feel appropriate, I'd like to just pop stuff in the chat box as well, because it can trigger thoughts for other people. It may not be the same type of thing for them, but what are the types of things? Now, I'm going to, I'll share with you a couple of things for me. I mean, I mentioned the brain. Just recently, and I'll share this while you're thinking as well, so hopefully it's not too distracting, but just recently, I got out of my exercise habits because I'm driven to usually a target date. I've got an Ironman in place, and I'm driven to that. But actually, my coach was really challenging me on this and trying to dig deep to find out what would drive me to doing more exercise again. And honestly, he went all over the place. He was trying to think about, you know, how will I feel if if I'm putting on more and more weight and I'm walking down the street with my shirt buttons bursting and things like that. None of that really particularly resonated with me. But then actually throughout this process, we got back to what really drove me to do my first Ironman about 8 years ago now. And as much as the few Guinnesses had got me to put my name down for it, that was the what, the why came later, when actually I connected my passion for the brain injury charity to doing it, and I decided to raise sponsor for that. Now, as we were talking about this, we agreed that actually, well, what if every single time I do a run, I give to that charity? But I can only give to charity if it's not just a run, but any form of exercise for 30 minutes. And so that really motivated me to start again. And just to put that into perspective, by the way, I'm wearing a shirt, but I'm wearing running shorts below me now. And I've just run here to the office to deliver this from the office, because my internet's playing up again. And then as soon as I've done here, I'm going to stick my top back on and run back home again. And so I've actually got back into my running again, which is fantastic. So that really compels me, and I can connect something that has an emotional impact to then everything else I do. And it really makes that difference. So what are the things that might resonate with you? So time with family and friends, yeah, finding value in helping others. Yeah, seeing people taken advantage of, yeah, wasted resources. Yeah, I completely agree with those, Libby, really good ones. Okay, so keep those coming in. They hopefully might have fired a few things. I'll tell you what, another thing for me, and this is, I think weird can go out of the agenda here, how the equation, should I say. But I've never been able to watch any of these soaps or films or anything like that where someone is being, effectively raped. Yeah, and I'll say it. I don't like to say it. But that absolutely angers me, and that really drives me. So, you know, if there's another purpose of mine, it would be to stop anything like that, people being taken advantage of, you know, on that horrible level as well. Stuff like that, you know, if anything like that really angers you, I try and connect with it. What is it? Why is it? And what can you do in your normal day-to-day stuff that might have an impact on that? Hopefully that makes sense. So it doesn't have to be connected with accounts or anything like that, is the point I'm trying to make here. But maybe there are ways that you can connect it on your, you know, your website. So I've had a few things in the chat box, but not many. So just from 2 people so far, what are the other things that you might think of? Yeah, blame culture, yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point. So it may be that you've listed one thing, it may be that you've listed 50 things, you know, maybe you're a victim elder and lots of things drive you to anger. But just try and think about the stuff that does really resonate with you, that really drives you crazy. I hate to see lazy people that are expecting the world to, yeah, tell me about it, yeah. Yeah, I agree with that one as well, Doreen, yeah. So this is where you really, and as I say, it doesn't have to be negative, by the way, you know, obviously a lot of these are, and that can be one of the most powerful ones, can't it? The stuff that really makes us angry. Inspiring people, seeing businesses succeed. Yeah, so all of these types of things. So just think about what they are, and hopefully write down loads of things, because they often say it's when you get to the 33rd that actually the real stuff starts to come out. So this next exercise that, you know, I want you to try and dedicate some time to doing, maybe outside of this session as well. Yeah, they always say the 33rd onwards is where the real stuff starts to come in, because you've come out with all the obvious stuff and then there. Now, for me, don't get me wrong, it took me weeks to realize what that connection was, literally weeks. And it was just happened to be something that triggered that emotion. And then because my antenna was up looking for that, I realized, oh, wow, yeah, that's really powerful. So the next thing on here, can you do something about it? Now, obviously, I can't repair the brain on that level, but I can raise funds. I can give to charities. And there are a multitude of ways that I can do that. It's not just about the brain's ability to make choice. It's about our general ability to have the types of choices that we'd like to make as well for me, isn't it? So that's why I showed you that Venn diagram with the 3 different areas, the 3 aspects that are incredibly important to me. That might be the, obviously it says, can you do something about it, or do you do something about it now? So again, just give me some examples in the box if you are doing something, or maybe it's something you could do about one of the things that's really moved you. Brian, you joined AVN, cool. Philip, I don't think I've understood what you meant there. If you don't mind just expanding on that. Oh, sorry, no, I've just reread it and it makes perfect sense now. I think I just read that wrong in my head. Yeah, okay, that does make sense after all, Philip. So what we're looking for here really is what you're coming up with here going to inspire others that might have similar passions? Maybe whatever it is that you come up with is going to resonate with other people as well. So values are very much related, Stephen, but they're also a little bit different as well. So this is about really just considering what's important to you. Now, as I say, it doesn't have to be world changing here. You know, your why might just be that you know, it drives you crazy when you know, your clients have not had the help and support they could have had from an accountant. You know, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth here as well, but all I'm saying is it doesn't have to be world changing. It just has to be what really annoys you on an emotional level, or what gets you really excited on an emotional level. Okay, so we're just talking about the emotions here. Something that's really going to drive you. What really gets you springing out of bed in the morning? If you're not springing out of the bed in the morning thinking, yippee, it's Monday, then maybe you've not discovered your why yet. Okay, so the next one that I want you to consider is, you know, the people who are maybe affected, or I've put what do those people want and need, but, you know, if you can do something about it, who are you doing it to? What do they need? I might jump out of bed on Monday, the kids go back to yeah. Yeah, we're gluttons for punishment. We've just decided to take ours out of school and continue the home schooling. Yeah, I'll get back to on whether that was a good idea in September, but okay, so yeah, what do the people need and want that might be affected in this way? Now, as I say, that may not always be relevant, but it's just a different way of just getting you to think about what might, yeah, so motivation, for example, that's a good idea. Expertise, know-how, yeah, absolutely, guidance. Not only did you both come up with the same word, but it was identical time as well for you to put guidance in there. Yeah, absolutely, Steve. And that's obviously very much related to the stuff you can put further up on the chat box as well. Okay. And then the last one is, you know, just consider how do they change as a result? Because really that's the reason, if you're going to get involved in something that's going to help you achieve more, what aspect, what impact does that have on the people that you're wanting to maybe affect to make their lives better? So this is just our way of discovering your why. Now, my recommendation, by the way, is, you know, consider these by all means, but actually have, you know, next time you've got your practice growth expert session, just raise this with them and have an exercise on just going through this with them. You know, my coach, I've got quite a few coaches actually at the moment, you know, my coach really spent a lot of time with me and just drilling down and drilling down and drilling down, because some of these things can be at such a deep level that it can be very difficult to discover them. Your why is something to discover. You know, the key word there at the top is it's buried inside you somewhere, and you won't necessarily be aware of it. You know, we can get that. You know, you get that that feeling in the heart. It's almost like twang, isn't it? You know, the heartstring type of feeling that resonates with you. But unless you're picking up on that and then thinking, why did that happen? It can be very difficult. And if it doesn't happen frequently, then maybe it just needs somebody to really help you drill down. Okay. So as I said, for a number of reasons, this is incredibly important because it will drive you more than a financial incentive ever could do. Okay. What we tend to do, you know, we reach a certain point where our basic needs around finance are kind of met. And unless you've got something more powerful, you just take your foot off the pedal. And then before you know it, maybe things are starting to collapse around you. And then you back into that, okay, the financial drive has to kick back in again. And you're up and down and up and down and up and down. Whereas actually you've got something much more powerful than that. And I highly recommend, from my point of view, you know, we've got giving goals, because most of the stuff that I'm passionate about, or at least 2/3 of it, are giving elsewhere and impacting elsewhere. I've got giving goals around that. So that's something that, you know, if yours are related somehow to an impact that you can have elsewhere, that's why B1G1 is so important to us, because it enables the giving to be done so much easier. Then we've set goals around, okay, so we want to give more, and in order to give more, the business has to do better. Because actually, you know, we're not as financially motivated, most of the team here at AVN, if not all of the team here at AVN, as we are for some of the, you know, the bigger purpose stuff. So actually by having those types of giving goals, it really motivates us. Yeah, well said, Steve. I like that. Okay. So that's the why. Now, I don't know if I'm going to do this justice in terms of talking about the values, but the values are incredibly important. I don't know if most of you will have seen my little run through on values. I'm going to do it therefore just at super speed, just to give you a flavor. But values are equally important. So our values really define us as well. Yes, your why does, but our values are kind of our rules of life, the way that we see the world, the way that we believe things should be. Okay. And from our values point of view, you know, they're pretty much set in stone between the ages of 5 and 7. So the experiences, the influences that we've had in our childhood really cement our values. And only something that's incredibly life-changing is really going to change our core values. Our beliefs are subject to change. You know, I often use the same example. You know, people used to believe that the earth was flat until evidence proved that it was round, and then therefore our beliefs changed accordingly. Beliefs can change, which is a good thing actually, because most of us have self-limiting beliefs, which are just beliefs that can change. Yeah, but actually, you know, the people whose values and beliefs are a near perfect match to ours tend to become our loved ones and our closest friends. And they're the people that we're best surrounding ourselves with, aren't they? Because they see the world in the same way as us. They get what we're about. The people whose values and beliefs are a near match to ours, they tend to be mates at the pub or at the gym, people we get on with quite well, but we don't necessarily invite them back for dinner or a barbecue or those types of things. And then there are people in life that we just can't gel with, we can't connect with, no matter what. And almost within moments, we take an instant disliking to them. They may not be bad people, but they just see the world very different from us. Now, that's in our personal life. From a business point of view, you know, the team of people that we surround ourselves with. Can you see me all right? Because I'm getting messages popping up saying my internet is unstable. Is everything coming through okay? Just give us a thumbs up. I can see you, Caroline, Simon, Dawn, Phil. So yeah, thumbs up. Okay, cool. So yeah, the people whose values are a close match, near perfect match to ours, they're going to be the most loyal people. They'll go the extra mile because they get what you're about. They get why you're doing it. The ideas that they'll bring for us are, all right, I was breaking up a bit apparently for some of you. The ideas that they'll bring forward might be for the good of the company, even at the expense of their own working environment. Okay? But they'd rather work harder because the greater cause is worth it, if their values are in line with yours. Then there are people in the middle. They're your good workers. You know, they won't necessarily go the extra mile, but they'll do your 9 to 5, 9 to 3, whatever the hours might be. And maybe the ideas they bring forward are just for the benefit of themselves, just to make their environment better, which is also important. But then you've got the people at the opposite end of that. We call them BMWs, your bitches, your moaners, your whingers. They're your terrorists, your saboteurs. They don't get what you're about. They don't get why you're doing it. They're slagging you off behind your back. Why have we got to do it this way? This is stupid. And, you know, they're bringing the morale down of the rest of the team. And quite often, you know, you can take your eye off the ball by trying to appease those people, trying to bring them onto your way of thinking, maybe at the expense of your most loyal people, who then start to feel neglected and unappreciated. And then they start to move on and you're left with a poorer set of team members. So it's important that, you know, we don't surround ourselves with those people. And then just finally, you know, our clients as well. If we're surrounding ourselves with the types of clients whose values and beliefs are a close match to ours, they're your A clients. They'll be forgiving if you make a mistake. They'll be advocates. You know, they'll be giving you referrals on a regular basis. At the opposite end of that, you've got your D clients. These are also BMWs, bitches, moaners, and whingers. Nothing's ever fast enough. Nothing's ever cheap enough. Nothing's ever good enough for them. Okay, so what I'd like to do then is just take a look at the values, because ultimately this is what we need to do. We need to just surround ourselves with the core people here, the people that we're going to most resonate with. And just an example here, I don't know if Val's on here, but you know, on Val's website, no, she's not on here, it's a shame. But on Val's website, you know, she's got her values listed where people can go see them. That's just an introduction about it, but then you can go in and you can see what her values are. So, and all Val did was set up a camera and just talk to the camera and just explain what her values were. And actually what happened with that was, I can't remember, it's a shame Val's not on here, I don't know, the Chamber of Commerce, but somebody saw that, that had a large network of businesses and basically shared that link with all the businesses. Said, look at this, it's fantastic. I've never known an accountant do this before. So let me just, that's the rest of Val's website, which you don't necessarily need to do. So an exercise here, and we've just got less than 5 minutes left now. So again, I just want you to take down this. This is an exercise I did. And by the way, it's also listed in my book. So, you know, if you've got my book, Putting Excellence to Practice, this is listed here. And I talked through the exercise I went through as well. So list 3 people that you would love to replicate, take over the world with, whatever it might be. These, and I'm not talking about your Alan Sugars or your Richard Bransons. I'm talking about people that you do work with or have worked with in the past, or you know really, really well. You know that they've got very similar values to yours already, or you suspect they have. Okay, so list at least 3 people. Then for each of those people, you're not necessarily looking for commonalities right now. For each of those people, so just think about, well, why did you write their names down? Write down the reasons, but their qualities. And when I did this, you know, I'd written down the names, and for some of them I'd written, well, really intelligent, you know, hardworking, takes ownership, really just, you know, grabs the bull by the horns and just gets on with stuff. And there are a massive range of words that I put down. Do this individually for each person. And then just circle the things that actually resonate the most with you and that are common. But also just think about, well, what's, you know, what's not a value? So I said intelligence earlier. Well, intelligence isn't a value. Okay. So what are the things that might be a value? What, you know, aspirational, where somebody's, somebody's goal driven. Well, that could be a value. So just try and think about, well, what really constitutes a value? I'll pull up some examples in a minute of values. Yeah, hardworking, loyal, problem solvers. Yeah, absolutely, all values. And what I would recommend here is that we've all got a core set of values. So some of the words that came up earlier, for example, honesty, integrity, quality, they're values, but they're probably the same values that most people will have. Well, I'd like to think so, on a very basic level. So really, if that's your fundamental basic level, my recommendation is just go to the next stage up from that. That's really close to what, you know, you are. So I like hardworking, loyal, and problem solvers. You know, most accountants out there will say our values are honesty, integrity, and quality, for example. You know, that's not differentiating. So just think about what's really unique to you if you can. So keep, kill, combine. Really, you want to get this down to between 3 and 5 at the most. You don't want to be reeling off 10 different values. So now combine means that maybe, you know, there's a couple of things that are maybe, you know, you can combine into maybe 2 words that really help. So kill, keep, and combine. Now, my recommendation here is do not do this as a team. If there are multiple partners in your business, fine, do it as a partnership, as a set of directors, whatever it is, owners. But if you're one person, do it yourself. And then once you've gone through this, you need to see if the rest of the team that you currently have match them. But if you do it with your team and you've got some of those BMWs in your team, then what you're going to come out with is a very diluted set of values that nobody really buys into. So these are some examples. If you want to take a screenshot, just again, these aren't necessarily anything that you might relate to, but just some of the types of things that you may consider to be values. You know, hardworking, loyal, problem solvers, their values as well on there. Okay. So this has to be unique to you. So what I'll do, I'll just finish off by, and again, some of you will know these, some of you won't, but I'll just share with you the outcome of me doing this exercise. And this was, I don't know how many years ago now it was, but when I did this exercise, and this really applies to the team that we want to surround ourselves with, but also the members that we want to surround ourselves as well. And whenever I'm having a discussion with a potential member on the phone or on Zoom, I'm mentally ticking these things off in my head. If I don't feel that they meet them, I won't even offer them the opportunity to work with us. So first of all is own it. You know, the people that we surround ourselves, they have to be the type of people that will just grab the bull by the horns and actually make stuff happen. So, you know, from a team point of view, treat it like it's your own business. Don't spend willy-nilly, or don't, you know, just use your judgment. And if you see something that's not right, just sort it. Don't think it's somebody else's job. Inspiring wows. You know, we want to wow not just our customers, but each other as a team, and also our suppliers. That's why there's 3 speech bubbles there. Speed stunts, surprises create smiles, surpassing expectations is sensational service. I also recommend that you have 3 bullet points for each of your values to really demonstrate what you mean by that. If you do want honesty on there, you know, just describe, and maybe that's a way of making it more unique. What does that mean for you? Fun with a serious intent. You know, we want to create an environment where people are enjoying what they're doing. It's not just heads down all day, but at the same time, it has to be that balance, doesn't it? Keep evolving. You know, we certainly within AVN, we want people that are just going to keep getting better at what they do all the time. That might be reading, it might be attending courses, it might be watching videos, but also it's got the comfort zone there. We want people to stretch as well outside of the comfort zone and do the stuff that makes them feel uncomfortable. Sooner or later, it makes them feel okay about it, but we don't develop ourselves unless we stretch outside our comfort zones. And then finally is make lives better. You know, every little thing from the global goals affecting people around the world, right through to every little thing that we do for our members, we have to be asking ourselves, is this making their life better, or is this just convenient for us? So they're our values. And I just wanted to finish on that note, just so you got a good feel for the type of outcome to come up with. Now, I did some doodles here and then sent them off to somebody on Fiverr just to make my doodles look more presentable. But actually, everything came from me and, you know, my heart when I went through this exercise. And yeah, so anyway. We're kind of at our, well, 60-second minute now. Has this been useful? Just give me a yes or a no in the chat box. And as I say, my recommendation would be make sure you pick this up if it's appropriate right now to have a conversation, thank you, with your practice growth expert. Because it's such an important exercise to go through. And, you know, I can't begin to explain the clarity it gives you yourself. Is this the right type of client I want to work with? Is this the right type of team member I want to work with? Is this the right decision that's going to make my business go forward? Because the values have to, you know, they are our rules for how we conduct business as well. So, okay, well, thank you very much for the feedback in the box. And every other Tuesday, we're going to keep bringing on, you know, some kind of presentation around these, as well as Thursday morning. Hopefully you've seen the emails. Emma's going to be delivering a session on clarity. So make sure you've seen that email, make sure you register for it as well. We want to keep bringing you forward. We know that you're busy as well, so whatever you can get in on, that'll be better for you. So thank you very much, Joseph and Barry and Christy and Philip, Neil, and all the names that have gone off my list. Thank you very much for that feedback. Wonderful stuff. I will let you go. Hope you have a great day. All the best. Bye-bye. Thanks for the feedback.